Review Book 1 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is executive chef and founder of the Blind Kitchen. No other than Miss Debra Erickson. Welcome to Book 101, Miss Debra. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. I am the executive chef and founder of the Blind Kitchen, where we provide adaptive culinary tools and strategies for people with vision loss who want to cook in their own kitchens. I'm blind myself. I have retinitis pigmentosa with very little vision in one eye only. And I was the only blind student in culinary school, so I had to learn to solve a lot of problems. And that's how the Blind Kitchen came to be.
Miss Debra Erickson, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Truly, truly inspiring. And let's talk about the four fears of cooking with vision loss. Can you tell us about this?
Sure. So there are four fears that I commonly get when I do presentations or teach, and they are two are very obvious: fear of cutting yourself or burning yourself, and those are very realistic fears. But there are strategies and tools that can help with that. The third fear has to do with embarrassing yourself, and that can come in two forms. One is looking disorganized and messy, knocking things over, spilling things. And the other is fear of how does my food look? I can make you a plate of food and you can see it and I can't. And so the fear is that you're going to see something that I don't know is there. And I'm hoping it's attractive. But there are strategies and tools that you can use to guarantee equal portioning and attractive portioning, even with no vision at all. And the fourth fear is the fear of making other people sick with your cooking. And that comes in the form of, like, chicken needs or poultry needs to be cooked to 165 degrees. Seafood needs to be cooked to a safe temperature. And most of the recipes will say cook it until the juices run clear or cook it until it's no longer pink in the middle. But if the cook does not have access to that visual information, there are other ways to do that, to find that out. And for that particular one, just to give you an idea of one of the tools we have, it's a talking thermometer, and it's a instant read probe thermometer that you put into the meat, and it you press a specific button and it'll tell you in a loud clear voice exactly what the temperature is at the time you press the button. So those are the four fears, because if I'm worried about making you sick because I've undercooked your chicken or your turkey, I'm probably going to overcook it, because I'd rather have you have a piece of leather to chew on than for you to die because I undercooked it. So tools like the talking thermometer give tools like the talking thermometer give us the information and allow us to have food presented the way we want it and at the temperature we want to give it to our loved ones.
Miss Deborah, which of these four fears do you see as the most common initial barrier for people adjusting to cooking with low or no vision, and why do you think that is?
Well, I think it would probably be fear of cutting yourself, followed very closely by burning yourself. And that it's they're very real fears. If you are standing in front of a thing of silverware which has sharp blades in it, knives, and you're not afraid because you have to reach in and grab one, you're not going to stay in the gene pool very long because that's just not a you're not in a safe place. Same thing if you're standing in front of a hot stove and you're not sure, how high the flame is or where the pan exactly is or whatever. You are in a very real dangerous place there, as is any cook. But just like if you people that cook with vision, you have to be able to manage those fears. It's a little different for us. We can do 99% of what people with vision who cook can do. We just have to do it in a different way and using different tools and strategies.
Beyond cuts and burns, what are some specific physical safety concerns in the kitchen that people with vision loss might worry about others might overlook?
So there are also fears if you can't see of like pathogens like that. I'm If I'm working with that chicken we talked about a little bit earlier, and chicken or any raw protein can grow bacteria at very alarming rates when it's at room temperature or anywhere above 41 degrees. So what you want to do is you want to be able to isolate and not if I'm touching that chicken and now I go over and I touch my counter so I can go wash my hands, and now I touch the faucet, and now I touch the water control, and now I touch the soap bottle. Okay, now it's fine for me to wash my hands. But I've got to go back and decontaminate all of those
Okay.
places. So one of the strategies I teach people to so that they don't contaminate other surfaces is you just run a couple of inches of soapy water in a sink. And that way, if I'm touching my chicken, now I can use my forearms or the back of my hands to find my way to the sink and I can plunge it into that soapy water. And I don't have to disinfect anything. And I've already started cleanup too. It works out well.
Oh, very well said, Miss Deborah. Very well said. And empowering too. How about the fear of wasted effort and money? It's not just a practical, or it can feel deeply discouraging. How does the experiments of ruined meal or spilled ingredients impact someone's confidence and willing to try again?
Yeah. The same as it would a person with vision. It is you put time, money, energy into it, and if it doesn't come out the way you want, it is going to be a disappointment. But just like anything, podcasting, doing a show like this, you probably didn't get it perfect every time from the first show, but you love it. And so you're willing to say, okay, I made a mistake. Now I can learn from that mistake. I won't do that again. And then you keep going. So if you don't like cooking or you don't like technology, no, nobody's going to probably do your job or my job because they're not going to stick with it through thick and thin. But if you really have a passion for it, yep, then you just move forward. You get over it and you keep on going. It's too important to not persevere.
Yes, people don't afraid to commit mistake because those mistakes make you well better, best. Not perfect, but better than the first time you did. Just like my podcasting. First season, for sure, I have a lot of mistakes, and I make sure that for my second season, I will not do it again. The same with my second season. I commit a lot of mistake, and then I try not to do it on my third season until my fifth season is coming. Not perfect, but the best of what I did for my first time. Very well said, Miss Deborah. Again, empowering, empowering answer. How does
It's
vision?
exactly the same.
Yes,
Oh,
go ahead, Miss Deborah.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, how does vision loss amplify the common fear of social judgment around cooking? What specific worries come up?
You know, I get it a lot. People don't know how a person like me could possibly cook safely because they don't know how they'd do it if they were in the same shoes. So I don't know how blind people can't climb mountains and hike. I don't do that, but I've learned my craft. So there's always going to be social judgments. There's always going to be people because of lack of knowledge. That's all it is. Are just not they don't have the information as to how I'm going to do it. How do I use a white cane? How do I cross a street if I'm by myself? Then there's traffic coming and going. You just have to have the skills and the knowledge and practice and practice and practice, just like with any craft that someone has to learn.
Practice make you perfect, people. So again, don't go afraid to commit mistake. The same with the practice. Practice make you perfect. The fear of loss of independent dependency is profound. How does relying on others for meal prep or cooking impact someone's sense of self and daily autonomy?
Yeah, we all want to be independent, especially when we're adults. You don't want somebody feeding you. You don't want, somebody cleaning after you. Well, maybe I do, but the feeding me, I don't. I want to be able to take care of myself that way. But I wasn't born blind. I was diagnosed at 17. Yeah, I had signs of retinitis pigmentosa at 17, but I wasn't formally diagnosed till I was 28, and I lost the majority of my vision in my early 50s. So I used to drive, and I was very independent. I didn't have used to ask people to go to the store for me or to help me with different things. But I I was determined not to just stay home and sit. So I went to the Oregon Commission for the Blind and got my blind skills and wanted to teach, and that's that's what I ended up doing. I just had to learn to do things different ways.
Miss Debra, what are the most effective tactile techniques or tools for managing knife skills and avoiding burns when vision is limited?
Okay, so we have a tool, and we didn't invent it, and it wasn't invented for blind people, but it's very helpful, and it's called a cut glove. And it's a relatively thin glove. You can't read braille through it, but it fits on your hand. It's a little bit stretchy. It's not bulky like an oven mitt. And I literally, in presentations, will hold my palm straight up while I'm wearing that glove and run the knife, very sharp butcher knife, back and forth across my palm, and I can feel the movement and I can feel the pressure, but it never cuts through the glove. It can't. They're used in commercial kitchens. That's how I found out about them when I was doing one of my work experiences. They made all of the cooks wear them. The insurance company required that all the cooks wore them when they were cutting. I was like, blind people should know about these. How is it I never knew about these? And so those are the kinds of things that help protect you.
Definitely. How does meticulous kitchen organization specifically mitigate both physical safety risks and the fear of wasted effort and money?
I'm sorry, repeat that question. Sorry.
How does meticulous kitchen organization specifically mitigate both physical safety risks and the fear of wasted effort or money?
Both of those are real concerns. N- eh, we work hard for our money and we don't want to have it wasted, and we don't want to have a big mess to clean up and stuff. So one of the other tools that I use that I would for anybody could use it, we use these very large cafeteria trays is what they are. They're very hard plastic, and I use that for a cutting board because those raised edges of like a cafeteria tray, they'll catch any small pieces that would fall off. If I was using a flat wooden cutting board, they'd fall off the edges. So those work trays, I can take all of the ingredients that I'm making for one recipe and put it on one of those trays, and now it's in a predictable location. And I also, let's say I need eggs for that recipe, and I go to the refrigerator, and my husband has used the last two eggs, and I needed those two eggs. So now I'm not going to start cooking. Now I've got a problem solved. How am I going to get some more eggs? I'll get more eggs and then I'll start the cooking. So the other thing is if I'm doing some type of measurement, whether it be a wet ingredient or a dry ingredient, I am always going to do it over one of those work trays so that if something does spill, even people that can see knock things over and can spill things. This points to both of your concerns. Number one, it could, if the work tray is clean and let's say I spill vanilla, which is very expensive, I could potentially salvage whatever I've spilled, whether it's wet or dry, by using a funnel to direct the contents back into the bottle. So that helps not only with being meticulous and being organized, because if I put something down and I'm a slower cook than I used to be. And that is because when I put something down, I have to be very thoughtful about it. I can't just glance and say, "Oh, it's right over there." I
Mhm.
it'll be gone if it's an inch away from where I put it. It's somebody moves it, it's just gone for that moment. And there are ways to get human eyes. If you want to talk about that, I can do that. If I'm home alone, I can actually use some apps to get human eyes to look through my phone to help camera to help me find things. But if but those if I'm organized, and I generally am, that really helps to make the cooking experience not only more organized, but it's more enjoyable. If I get all my stuff together and now, is this vanilla or is this almond extract? I don't know. I don't know. Now I've got to solve the problem instead of cooking like I want to be. So it's being organized and doing your problem solving up front before you turn on the stove or the oven really helps make for a more pleasant experience.
Pleasant experience indeed. So, Miss Deborah, as executive chef and founder of the Blind Kitchen, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
So, my short term goals are to create a community around blindness. There, there is a social isolation aspect to blindness that many people experience because transportation, getting to and from places, and also just feeling less than other people if you're different than other people. It's very common, and it's a very human thing to do. But if you like to cook, and there are a lot of people with vision loss out there who like to cook, then if they could get on a Zoom call, which we can, I'm on a Zoom call right now with you or Riverside, but it's we can use technology. Our phones talk to us, our computers read information to us. We can interact that way. And I would really like to open up the world to other people who have this one thing in common, which is cooking. And you see all the cooking shows on TV. It's a real thing out there, whether you have vision or not.
Yes.
And so I'd like to create some kind of community around that, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. The other is I'm writing a curriculum. I do workshops and speaking, and parents of children with vision loss do not want their kids in the kitchen. They're terrified. Their job is to protect their kids, and the kitchen is a dangerous place with knives and hot things. But if so I'm teaching, and if you're a parent who does not have vision loss yourself and you've never dealt with it, but now you have a child that does, you can't possibly know how to teach them to be safe in the kitchen. All you can do is guard the door. But if these children are going to grow up to be independent young adults and adults in their lives, these cooking for yourself, preparing meals and food is an important skill to learn. So I'm teaching parents of children with vision loss, how to make their kitchens accessible to their kids, and then different ways they can teach their own children to cook safely. So those are the two projects in the short run.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Deborah, and looking forward for your success for sure. And what would be your advice for those people out there want to be like you, executive chef as well as the founder of the Blind Kitchen?
I would just say go for it. I'm going to get in trouble from PETA here, but how do you eat an elephant? That's a good, chefy kind of thing. How do you eat an elephant? Do you know the answer? You eat it
No,
one bite at a time.
one
And that's
bite
the
at a
same
time.
thing with becoming a chef. You just one bite at a time. Yeah, you just go through and you say, okay, what is one thing I can do today to reach this goal? And nobody needs to be an executive chef, or I mean, you can just be a gourmet cook for your family and friends if you want to. I think the important thing is to identify a goal that you want, because as you identified earlier, if you make mistakes and you're really not passionate about it, you're probably not going to keep on trying. You're probably going to say, okay, that hurt. I'm not doing that anymore. But if you really have a passion for it, and then find a way to get paid for it, and then you're doing something you love, and you're feeling good about it, and you're also pleasing other people with your efforts.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for your advice, Miss Deborah. And can you recommend a book that influenced you, Johnny?
Oh, there's so many. I know you hear I've listened to your podcast. I know you hear that all the time, but I thought about it very carefully. So vision loss is kind of my thing. It's not the only thing I read about, but every once in a while something really profound will come my way. And there's a book called The Country of the Blind, and it was based on an H.G. Wells short story that he wrote where an an explorer, there was a fabled of this fabled country of the blind where 15 generations of people had lived there with no vision at all, not their
Mm,
parents, not their grandparents, not their great grandparents. So these people had absolutely no clue what vision was, and they were doing fine. Well, an explorer fell into that country
mm,
and he could see, and anyway, so it ends differently, but this the author is fabulous, and he takes you through art, literature, history, and his own experience of going blind. And he's just is a beautiful writer, and he puts it together so well. Every chapter is interesting. So it'd have to be The Country of the Blind, and not the version by H.G. Wells. That one doesn't end well.
mm. Okay, thank you for that the recommendation, Miss Deborah. And I hope people are listening or watching right now will read that book. Redefining success. How can someone shift their mindset to focus on nourishment, enjoyment, and effort rather than perfect presentation when cooking for others?
Well, I use things like portion scoops. So they're like ice cream scoops. They sell them in like 42 different sizes. So
Yes.
if I'm serving 4 people and I want restaurants use these to for cost control, because if I give you twice as much rice says I give it to your buddy, he's not going to be happy with me as a restaurant owner. And so you just scoop it up. The starch helps hold it together, and then you dispense it. I use 6 ounces generally for a serving, and then put 6 ounces, and you've got this beautiful dome of rice. And you can sprinkle fresh herbs over that, or roasted toasted nuts. And each of the 4 plates I'm preparing will look the same. I'll put them in the same place, maybe in the center of the plate, maybe off to the side, but I can use strategies like that to create consistent portioning that is attractive.
Definitely. Consistency is the key to success, people. And how important is it to embrace the concept of good enough cooking and rather than striving for perfection?
Yeah. Perfection is the enemy of the good. I've heard that in politics. So the thing is, just do the best you can. If you're going for perfect, chances are very few people win Olympic gold medals. It just, even though there's a lot of athletes out there, it's hard to be the top of the top. But being very good is good as well. And if you are
Yes.
pleasing the people around you with your efforts, that's all that really matters.
Definitely. If you excel at what you're doing, go, go, go for it, just like Miss Debra Erickson. And before we wrap up our discussion today, Miss Debra, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and food and book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in second season, and of course my food 101 in fifth season as well. Miss Deborah will be my guest on food 101, so please tune in for that, people. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast law 101 and mental health 101, love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in its fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Deborah, for someone listening right now or watching right now who feels held back by one or more of these fears, what is one small, concrete first step you would encourage them to take tomorrow towards cooking more?
I would suggest that you either reach out to a blind organization. There's a lot of them out there, organizations that are run by state or government agencies, but there's also a lot of several organizations that are actually run for and by blind people. So there are community calls you can get on where you're actually interacting. I do two monthly ones where people can call in and ask me questions because there's as many ways of cooking styles and preferences and according to your budget, according to your comfort with kitchen appliances and stuff. There are answers out there, and but you're going to have to seek them out. You're just not going to know them as a rule. That's just not the way the world works. When something is as complicated and varied as cooking is, and then you throw in vision loss, you're going to need to access other people who have been able to do it successfully. And that will raise your confidence level that if you perceive yourself to be like them, it's going to increase your confidence that you too can accomplish what they've accomplished.
Miss Debra Erickson, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business itself or any projects that you are doing right now?
Yes, if you reach out to theblindkitchen.com, it's an online business and you'll see a whole lot of information. We have almost 100 tools now and thousands of pieces of that are strategies. All of that's free that you can have access to. So check it out.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Debra Erickson because if you support her, more and more and more empowering business to come, more and more empowering recipe to come. So, Miss Debra, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun. I appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.